Hello, everybody, and welcome to Infamous Interviews at Infamous Horrors. Today, I am joined by Tiger, who directed his short film Death and Ramen. So, Tiger, how did the idea of Death and Ramen all come about?
Thank you so much for having me. Death and Ramen began quite early when I was 16 or so. I lost my grandfather to an illness, and I felt like there was an interesting way to approach mortality and the question of death in a way that didn't make it feel ironic and but still one that had like levity and humor. And so I wanted to make a sort of comedy that had a sincere take on mortality.
And how did the casting all come together? Because, of course, Bobby Lee is fantastic, but you also got a Zahn, uh, Matt Jones, right? Am I saying his last name correctly? Yeah, he was fantastic in this as well. So how did you get those two paired together? Because their on-screen chemistry was uncanny with each other as well.
Yeah, I sort of wrote the role for Bobby, and he sort of was always on my mind when I did it, and so I like very incessantly reached out to him for like a year, and finally annoyed him enough to convince him to take on the role. And Bobby was an old friend of Matt's, and so Matt coming on became a lot easier. They had known each other from like sort of comedy troupes when they were younger, like about like a decade ago almost. And yeah, the two of them sort of had this already established rapport, and so all I had to do as a director was to kind of point the camera at them and just direct a little bit, but the chemistry was already there.
And this is such a taboo subject to have on film. So how was it like also juggling this as a comedy, as a drama, and even having death in there? It could also be considered like low key horror at the time too, right? So how can you all combine these genres in Death and Ramen and not make it seem forced or ironic at the time you were making
Honestly, I have no idea, man.
it?
A lot of it was a tight wire act, you know. A lot of it was just paying attention to whether the scene sort of escaped us is very important to kind of steer the ship, so to speak, as a director. Kind of like purveying this like tone of not letting the themes get away from you, not letting it get either too dark and somber, but also
Right.
not letting it get too slapstick. And combining these two like flavors was sort of the entire project of directing this film.
And as well as you said, you were filming this out in LA. So how was it like filming out in LA and having this play at the Hollywood Sorts Festival as well?
Holly Shorts, yeah.
Holly Sorts,
Um,
yeah. I'm sorry.
no, no worries. Yeah, it felt great. It was kind of like a homecoming experience, you know, because we shot in Little Tokyo, LA this time last year. And 1 year later, we're coming back to LA to sort of premiere this short in LA. And it was a wonderful experience, you know, like getting to catch old friends and new. I'm in development for the feature film version of this short. And so like getting to have people see this short and then talking about the feature is like a great experience.
And that's another subject I wanted to ask you about. When you write a short film, how do you know that thin line of knowing where to end it without it overstaying its welcome or it being too short with people wanting more of it?
Hmm. I don't know. I think there's like a general principle with short films of keep them wanting more, you know? I think that's sort of something I wanted to do with it. It's a very like quick pacing for a short film too. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
location. It sort of plays out like a very speedy late night odyssey. It covers an entire night, and there's like a lot of like um steps in this night that sort of leads to sort of the final dance of the film. Um, I don't know, like I just wanted to make something that uh like hit all the marks, you know, one that felt grand and big, but one that flowed, one that had a lot of pacing. Uh, yeah, I wanted to make a rhythmic sort of comedy.
And the title is Death and Ramen, so I kind of have to ask you, what is some of your favorite ramen out there?
Are you a ramen fan?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you know, there's the classic tonkotsu, pork bone broth, and then there's a tsukemen, which is like a sort of dipping sauce for ramen. And then you got your shio and shoyu, of course, and your miso ramen. Like they're all really great. We did use a kimchi recipe, which is like a Korean type of ramen for our film, just because I felt like it was more fitting that uh Bobby was Korean. There could be like a sort of backstory of his mother being from Korea and him becoming a ramen chef, of like having this like fusion style ramen, which I thought was
Right.
cool. Funny you asked that though, because I had just come back from Tokyo, where I was doing this research trip for the feature film. Essentially, like over like the span of like a week and a half, I had like somewhat like 40 bowls of ramen.
Oh, wow.
Um, and a lot of it was, you know, just an excuse to eat great ramen, but a lot of it was also to experience like history and culture, especially Japanese culture, through like a culinary lens. And it was very interesting to see how like the history of ramen informed a lot of Japanese culture, but also, for example, like by and large, ramen saved the Japanese people from starvation after the World War II because there was a national food shortage. So you think about like
Oh,
this
wow.
two ends of the existential spectrum, right? There's death and destruction, and there's life, creation, union. And two ends of the spectrum for me, ramen then became a perfect metaphor, right? Because on the one end, it's death and it's like the inevitability of people going away. Um, but then the other side of it is joy and love and union, and that's for me like ramen being like this perfect metaphor of that was great, you know. So that's like a general like thing I'm thinking about a lot right now.
And what's next for Death and Ramen? You briefly mentioned you working on the feature film version of it, but what's next for the short film? Are you playing at any more festivals as well?
Yeah, we're actually playing at a bunch more Oscar qualifying fests.
Oh, wow,
We're
that's exciting.
Thank you. We're playing Calgary next in Canada, and then we'll be doing Bend Film in Oregon. And then Nashville we're playing. I don't know if I'm technically allowed to say that, but I'm saying it anyway. We're just doing a few. It's yeah, it's exciting stuff.
All right, Tiger, thank you so much for joining us and congratulations on the film. It's wonderful. And I hope a lot of people enjoy it when you release it.
Thank you so much.